All right, let's do it. Let's get started. All right, everyone, thanks for joining. This is our first webinar at Zelh Logistics. We launched the company 4 months ago, and we're just getting started. So we're excited to bring this webinar to you, get to know you a little bit through some Q&A, as well as ask us some questions and understand who we are, how we're thinking about this market, and what is Zelh Logistics. So thanks for participating. We are recording this, and so we will be showing this at a later time. So if you do miss this, don't worry. You can go back for reference. So with that being said, my name is Jeff Ogren. I'm the president at Zelh Logistics. Like I said, we launched this company 4 months ago. It's a division of Zelh. Zelh is based in Eastern Europe. That is where we source our talent for US-based logistics companies. And 6 years ago, when Zelh got started, we were not in logistics necessarily. We were working with tech companies and really industry agnostic. And so since then, we have formed a team all from the industry, coming from different backgrounds, from fleets, carriers, as well as 3PLs and 4PLs. So we feel equipped. We feel like we've learned a lot. We've sat in a lot of the shoes that you've been in, and we want to help you, and we want to help scale that company, and we want to do it in a profitable manner. And so I'll go into my background a little bit, as well as Chris Fields, my colleague. He's our vice president of sales, and he has extensive experience that he can share some of his learnings as well. And then we'll end with how we're doing this and some of the solutions and benefits that you can take advantage of by leveraging Zelh Logistics. So my background for the past 10 years have been around founding companies like Trucker Path and Uber Freight, two notable ones from the past 10 years where we did some pretty interesting things. I focused specifically on growing our carrier network from essentially zero to hundreds of thousands of owner-operators, as well as company drivers. And the interesting learning that I experienced and went through is there was a lot of room for improvement, or even some would say for disruption in this industry. And I think a lot of the changes that have happened have been for the better. But at the same time, the industry has become flooded. There's been a lot of capital that has been kind of diversed across multiple industry or multiple verticals within the industry. And if you're not prepared and you don't have a proactive really plan for that, it's hard to take advantage, not only that you had the capital to run your business, but to do it in a profitable manner. And so some of these valuations have been a little absurd, to be honest. And now we're kind of backtracking. And as we know, the industry is very volatile. It's up and down. And we didn't have that problem, several years ago. We were experiencing an incredible market. And so now a lot of companies are suffering, as you know, and we want to get in front of that. And so there was a lot of learnings that I was able to take from my days at these two companies, and then later using those learnings to consult and advise other logistics companies, whether it be raising money or just kind of thinking about how do you scale in a market, even if it's a challenging market, in this day and age. So with that being said, Chris, take it away. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. Chris Fields here, Vice President of Sales. I spent the last 15 years at TQL, and I know there's a lot of opinions out there about brokerages, good, bad, and ugly. What I will say is I was really good in one vicinity, and that was due in large part, I think, to the carrier relationships that I had. I was very transparent with my carriers, paid them fairly, the tension and appointment times, very upfront with those things, and it helped. It was mutually beneficial for both of us. So I was a top broker there for several years. I then started their Tampa office, 6 individuals. help grow that to 250 plus to become one of their top offices. And in the last few years, I was in their enterprise division, overseeing some of their largest enterprise accounts. So as far as industry experience, I've seen the volatility, the cycles. I've built teams, interviewed hundreds, and have come up with a few unique solutions. And, as far as the industry that we're seeing now, I think, reports say that a normal cycle is 26 to 28 months, and we're in month 22 or 23. So we will rebound if there will change. And I think the folks that prepare now to serve ahead of the competition, when it does, that's what we talked through a little bit today about what we're seeing and where we might be able to add some value.
Thanks, Chris. So yes, the purpose of this webinar is to be resilient in a challenging freight market. And we've come up with some solutions and just thoughts that we want to, not just mention, but also get feedback from. And we've had a tremendous amount of feedback these past few months with different conversations we're having within the industry. So thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to some Q&A. So please feel free to write in any topics or questions you might have that we can get to at the end of this webinar. So now I'm going to share a few slides here. So 1 second. All right, Zelh Logistics. So here's the founding team. And to Chris's point, everyone has a unique background that comes from this industry, whether it be a 3PL, 4PL, or fleet, or big carrier. A lot of us have sat in these shoes. We understand the friction. We understand the ups and downs and those up and down cycles that logistics brings. So we feel we're equipped just to really understand what you're going through and to kind of walk you through to being a little more resilient in a challenging market that we're in.
So this is kind of our core. The concept itself isn't new. There are several in the space who already have plans there to go Philippines, and I do believe there's space for that. But where we differentiate ourselves is the Eastern European presence. So we have just over 1,000 staff in Eastern Europe spread across 11 offices in 7 countries. I mentioned earlier my experience in hiring and trying to build a team here domestically. And what I'll say is the talent that we have in Zelh run circles around a lot of the domestic talent that I've had experience with. And it's easy to say that, but the work ethic, the education level, and the experience it's superior. And that's what we've offered some of our clients. And what we don't want you to do is to waste company resources and finances on recruiters, interviewing, wasting your time for someone who may only last 6 or 8 months. And, a lot of you in the industry know turnover here in the States is 60-70%. So we'll get into that a little bit more with us, that we're single digits post-placement. I mentioned our offices. So we have Class 8 office space in each location. We require our staff to come into the office. We're not being on the work from home side of things. So we operate in our office in ponds. Depending on team sizes, we have entire floors dedicated to clients, or you might have just here's an example here, pretty much without 1 or 2 staff, and they'll work in pods in our offices there. Pretty impressive office space.
And this is an example of one of our early clients, Millhouse. They're a 3PL expedited organization out of Charlotte, North Carolina. They grew their business from 10 million to 250 million over the past couple of years, and really leveraging Eastern Europe in their workforce in a variety of roles. And we'll get into those here in just a minute. But this is kind of an example where even as the employer of record that we are, we do everything we can to integrate seamlessly into your organization. So it looks that way. Even up front, the talent that we are integrating to your organization feels a part of it. And we think setting that up front is everything. It's extremely important. And so to Chris's point, we do require them being in the office, and it's really an extension to your organization.
Just some more of the office space there. this slide here, this really stood out to me, being in the industry as long as I've been. We talk about the Eastern European presence that we have. Think about the carrier base here in the United States. Chicago metro area alone is north of 22% Eastern European backgrounds. So when our staff is building carrier networks, and whether they're loan coverage or track and trace or dispatching, the relationships tend to be a little bit better than one of them is someone from your own background. So we've really leveraged that and noticed even some margins on loan coverage compared to domestic talents in the same market.
Here's some of the comprehensive services we briefed you on that Millhouse is taking advantage of. And I won't go through all of them, but we have the ability outside of just logistics, and I'll get into some of our most common roles, is our IT and software development. If you know anything about Eastern Europe, the universities, the highly educated and experienced individuals and talent resources there are second to none. If you do any kind of research on this, you'll find, and we're happy to share roles and resumes to show you, in a lot of cases, these roles come with backgrounds with PhD and masters that are associated with their education. And so we find that some of the best software developers and any kind of IT resources is a really strong suit in Eastern Europe, outside of just our logistics coordinators, our carrier sales, dispatch, track and trace, kind of the usual roles that you would find maybe in your organization. And then marketing, we do a lot of different marketing projects, whether it's building apps to websites or just, doing the SEO and paid campaigns that you might find here in the US. You can leverage us and do that at a fraction of the cost. And here's just a slide kind of going a little bit more in depth into those tech resources that we can source you with. And so there's no shorthand when it comes to not just the quality, but the immense diversity of developers that we can provide to our clients.
Going in some of these logistics roles here, so whether you're a carrier, an agent, a broker, I think we all know the industry that we've seen for the past 10, 15 years, that landscape is changing. Everyone's moving to a more streamlined process because of legal rulings, advanced tech, some remote staffing. So the way I look at it is you want your salespeople and your customer-facing people to be doing that the majority of the day. And so what a lot of our staff are to do is take these roles off their plate. So when they show up in the mornings, they're able to get the ground running, the boards are cleaned up, the dispatching has been done, the tracking and tracing has been done, and they're focused strictly on the customer relationships and driving rather than for the company. And then when you get those savings compared to the domestic talent, it can be used towards more assets or more sales individuals. And these, like I said, are some of the most common. Night dispatch has been very popular requests lately from a lot of clients, but you can see here, it's mostly map office that been requesting.
I think this is an important slide as you think about, again, all this is going to relate back to being resilient in this market. And I'll tell you why. Because everything we're talking about right now should have some sort of reduction to your overhead costs, whether you're currently in a certain situation with recruiting or outsourcing. We feel that this is a very competitive space to be in, and it should be looked as a very serious area to take advantage of. And so whether you're already doing this or not, think of this as maybe just a reminder that this is where businesses, especially in logistics, should be thinking about. So the benefits that you're going to get leveraging Zelh is we are the employer of record. No doubt about that. And what that means is, because there's a lot of definitions of employer of record, we don't just take care of payroll and some of the minimal kind of tasks that you would imagine employer record would do. We're also, included with the pricing, we have workstation, we have our HR compliance, taking care of hiring and firing, different individuals where needed. We have our recruiters in place. We've done a really good job of finding and really creating this workspace that is classified as Class A. So it is the most premium type of setup that you can imagine, and those costs add up. So if you were hiring, if there's any recruiters listening or anyone from HR, they understand the cost involved when hiring FTEs and full-time employees. You're looking anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000 per person per year, and we're taking that off your plate. And so, again, we're not just in the business of supplying bodies or personnel. Think of us as an extension to what you are already doing, and that seamless integration is going to lead to low turnover and a really high successful performance.
Competitive advantages here. We talk about the team. Each other that A+, we sat in your seat, and with our creations, when we learn a little bit more about your operation, we can talk through potential solutions that you may not have thought, whether it's not dispatching, about all this junk, whatever it may be. Number 3 there, just really stood out to me because of what I'm used to in turnover here domestically, 67%. Post-placement, our staff, we are single-digit turnover. They look at that as a career. They're working for a U.S. company, and they want to grow with it. Oftentimes, the individuals that I hired at 1 foot out the door on day 1, and that's a waste of resources. As far as pricing, it varies based on experience and education level, but very competitive with the rest of the industry, the ones in Latin America, the Philippines, those kind of things. Just depends on education experience level. And you would see that up front with our process. You see resumes, experience level, pricing before you move forward with interviews. And then lastly, transparency. It's important to see your staff. You set the hours. They work from our offices on webcam for each of their shifts. They're very transparent with the team.
And this is a little bit about who we are. When you think of Zelh, we have, like to the point I made earlier, Zelh has been around for 6 years now. So we're considered, very boutique style, very, very hands-on, white glove approach, if you will. With that being said, Chris mentioned some of the offices and countries that we are in, primarily Eastern Europe. We've got about 25 or so partners. That number is definitely growing, and around 1,000 staff in total across those partnerships. And so, again, those range anywhere from your 3PL, your 4PL, as well as big fleet carriers and for-hire carriers.
The last thing, I'm briefly touched on it, but our staff, they had industry experience, 1 to 2 years, some 5+ years. You don't need to explain the difference between a van load, flatbed load. Of course, they have to learn their operation, but as far as the ability to hit the ground running, that's a big difference based as their experience and education level. And like I said, you can see all of that up front. Once you present us with the role, we go and source 3 to 4 individuals per role, present those to you, and y'all to interview one or all, and we all make that decision before we give you elections, allowing you to make that decision and pick someone that's the best fit for your team.
All right, Q&A. We wanted this to be short for a reason. Nobody wants to listen to a presentation too long, and so here we are. Let's take a look and we'll see what we have. Brett's also on the call administrating this webinar, but let me take a look here and see. Chris and Jeff. Jeff Dickinson, good to hear from you, man. Hope you're doing well. Do you get much pushback from 3PLs and 4PLs and brokers because of your model of offshoring staff? You talk about integrations when it comes to international connectivity to TMS, CRM, etc. There comes a lot of possible risks, hacking, etc. What is your company doing to combat such threats to ease the minds of your prospects and clients? Thanks, the bodacious cowboy. Man, you can always count on Jeff bringing it. So thank you, man. That's a great question. And that is why we also have some other individuals on this call. Brett Buller, who handles a lot of our security, a lot of our back office infrastructure, and how that is in place. Brett, hopefully you heard that and you can chime in.
Yes, I did. And thank you, Jeff. Best mustache in the game, by the way. We really appreciate it. So the very short, how we do combat this, we have several levels of security. The absolute most secure you can do is either our virtual desktop, remote desktop, or if you needed another acronym, desktop as a service. Whatever our clients' infrastructures or IT teams are dictating, we can accommodate. So that is the most secure. That is a domestically based machine or a cloud that our team will go into. No data is actually leaving that cloud or that machine. The next level down is a static level VPN, where we'll do a white label static level VPN domestically, so that we don't have any connective issues and the data is secured on both ends and encrypted in flight. So that is exactly, we are very well aware of the stigma of hacking, and especially with international connections. So we're doing everything we can do to make sure that is done on the data side. Hopefully that answers the question.
Awesome. Thank you, Brett. That was a really good question. I mean, everyone, we've heard different stories and feedback from a lot of our clients, and that is the information being shared? Are the people exclusive to their partners? Because that's a real thing, right? Especially when you're working for multiple or working with multiple brokerages and trucking companies that might be sharing very sensitive data. And I know, Chris, you have a lot to say on this.
That's a particular pain point for me, because I believe if there's someone as your employee, they should be exclusively to your team. And they should be yours from day one until you choose not to work with them anymore. So there's no divided loyalties. They are exclusively yours. No flexing to other teams. Again, they work a 40-hour shifts, and there's no sharing. And that's teams. Our two of our largest teams have their own dedicated floor with team fobs, and only that team has access to the floor. So, yeah, important to point out.
All right. I got another question here that just came in about, do you guys have a minimum? What's the average amount of staff and resources that we do for our partners? And really the answer is it's across the board, depending on your needs. And in some cases, we start out with maybe one person. We always encourage clients and partners out there, don't rely on a single source vendor if you're already outsourcing. It's good to have diversity. It's good from a competitive standpoint to see the level of talent and how they're performing, but don't have a single source of failure that could happen, right? Whether it be weather or security breach, there's a lot of scenarios. And so some of our best partners are actually partnered with a variety and multiple vendors for different regions, different time zones, et cetera.
Yeah, and so in small extent, individual agents may have one or two. We have volumes at 60, 70, and now all the way up to 150, 300 straight across back office, counting, tracking, tracing, dispatching, those kind of things. And it's important to point out too that pricing, like I said, it varies depending on education and experience level, but it is a month-to-month basis. You're not obligated to keep the individual for a year, but what we often see is you start with one or two, and the price and the quality are that good that you just build a team out. And you can imagine the savings for the company. And then when you put those savings into assets or sales people, it can really drive revenue to the company.
Nate, thanks for the question. Nate Johnson said that they have had some issues in the past. I won't get into it too much, but essentially, monitoring and transparency and holding the resources accountable is extremely important. And that's part of the systems integrations and setup up front. So I want to address that because we, as the employer of record, we do have an obligation to monitor those people It's like another layer. It's kind of the infrastructure for on behalf of your organization. So in many cases, we have account managers that are assigned, whether it's a pod or it's an individual that is holding that person accountable based on your requirements, based on your hours of operation. And then we, of course, put some things in place like the video monitoring and so forth. We really want to set it up the way you guys feel comfortable setting up. It's not necessarily our protocol. We're going to have a base, but we really want to make sure that you are feeling comfortable and that the expectations are aligned. And Chris, I know you might, and as well as Brett, might have things on this.
The KPIs that we've had, whether it's load coverage, a certain number of loads per day or per week, or call him. But what we can do is pull that in and share it with you on regular intervals to make sure that they're hitting the metrics. And I mentioned earlier, what we noticed with a few clients is they look at their staff and the KPIs domestically compared to the Zelh staff. And it kind of ride and vibrates at all boats there. So they notice our staff outperforming some domestic staff and seeing some benefits from it. But you set those KPIs, absolutely.
And for each resource and talent pool that we go through, from the interview process all the way across the finish line and onboarding, they do sign a level of agreement, contract, NDA that essentially does not allow them to be working for other partners. And so that goes back to kind of the exclusivity and the sensitivity of each person that we are onboarding to our partner does not have the ability to go and work for others. And I think that was a great question that you asked, but I want to be real direct that that's a big part of what we push.
Yeah. I know this is important. We'll give it another 30 seconds, 45 seconds or so for any other questions to come in. If not, and you're watching this on the recording, I'd encourage you to reach out to the team with any questions that may come up.
Jeff, you had a question. You mentioned 40 hours. Are you staff on a 45-hour work week with an hour off for lunch, etc.? It's a great question. Brett, you probably can fill some of that in.
Yes.
Actually, Brett saw the question.
Yes, I did see it. So it is 40 hours. Lunch is included in that hour. That is due to local country regulations for the Eastern European countries.
Thanks, Brett. And, I'll mention something around that too, is we mentioned after hours and weekends. It's so critical, obviously, for US-based companies. We have a 7-hour difference. And so a lot of our partners take advantage of that. Some of our biggest teams come from that department. And they're responsible for quoting, booking, the whole 9 yards. So it's a full service shop, if you want it to be, across multiple shifts throughout the day, as well as the night and after hours.
Our most popular, this team consists of just the one comes in at 4 p.m. Eastern, works till midnight. The other comes in at 11 p.m. So there's an hour overlap there for teams transition, and they work until 7 a.m. so that, like I said earlier, the team can come in ready to go first thing in the morning. Very vital request.
So just kind of recap and going back to, what was the title of this webinar? And essentially it's how do we be resilient, right? In a tough, challenging freight market. We know that the market's going to turn around eventually. And at that point, you better have a proactive plan in place. And there are just some simple ways. I know AI and machine learning, there's a lot of ways to think about your organization to make it more efficient and to be more profitable. We have just chosen this route of remote staffing as a awesome value proposition to this industry. And most people, where I think the biggest thing the biggest takeaway when you think about outsourcing is you're going to achieve the low cost. I think we can all agree that a lot of regions, if not most regions around the world, will offer a low cost benefit to your organization. However, the stigma has been high turnover. The quality's not there. It's all the details that go into that outsourcing infrastructure. And that's where we want to come in. And that's what we're doing now with our partners, is having that level of detail and attention so that every talent and every resource that we're onboarding to our organization has a near zero turnover rate, and that you feel you have a positive experience, not just, well, we're saving money, but it's above and beyond, and the performance is second to none.
It's a seat experience and superior talent. That's something.
Well, thanks guys for joining. We'll probably do more of these. Maybe not. We'll see. But thanks for joining in, and we look forward to hearing more from you and having more of a conversation.